Today we're at the home of John vanLaak. This is part of an interview series of the Schenectady Proctors Historical Committee. It is now March 21st, 2014, and we are here with John vanLaak, who has a very rich history with Proctors, and as you can see by the surroundings here, has a great love of music, which he basically has shared with all of us in Schenectady.
Right. That's the idea.
Well, Proctors was surely fortunate when you raised that organ priority from number 4 to number 1.
Well, that, I don't know. We'd have to talk to Mr. Goldie about that, whether that influenced him or not. But it may have, because, you know, when something is fourth priority, that's down pretty low on the list. You raise it up to 1.
Right.
It shows they have
That's what we learned at the division for the budget, right? If it goes to number 1, it gets money.
That's right. Well, no, we were supposed to be there to make sure it went to the right places. Well, I retired as chief budget examiner, but I enjoyed the work over there very much. But after 40 years and so on, I thought, well, maybe I'll try something else.
Well, you've probably spent, I have to do some quick math here, let's see. You probably have spent over 30 years doing organ work in the community, making sure there are organs that work. And
that was my recreation.
Right, that's great. Can you, can we look at this organ and have you explain it to us?
Sure, sure. Sound effects. So when I found this one is available, well, they had no takers for it, so I said, I'll take it.
Where did you find this again?
uh, Church of Albany.
A church in Albany that
Yeah.
just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
And you
because
adopted it.
they were getting a new one,
Okay.
and all these stop tabs had all, I made all the letterings for those, and they were all, they changed the order so much that the console really didn't fit. So they had a new one made, and this one was surplus, and no use for it.
Great. Well, that's very good. I'd like to maybe have Frank talk to you for a minute. Frank Hackert.
Hi, I'm Frank Hackert. I'm chairman of the Hudson Mohawk Theater Organ Society, which is based out of Proctors Theater. Our responsibilities are primarily the maintenance of Goldie. And John, of course, is one of the founders of our organization at Proctors, besides having served on the board of directors of Proctors and having been instrumental in the Golden family acquisition of Goldie at Proctors. Yeah, and of course that it proved to be a very smart move because the organ was a very successful part of the venue in the 80s when they used to have sell-out audiences for Alan Mills's Christmas shows when Proctors was really just getting on its feet. So your interest in pipe organs goes way back to you when you were a kid, right? Your interest in pipe organs?
Oh yeah, it goes way back, yeah.
What was about what year or what age were you when you put together your first pipe organ?
Oh, in my late teens, my father and I built a console. There was a console we built out here, and when I found this one was available, I took this one, of course. And the other console, I don't know where it's going to, but we built the whole thing. It wasn't as big as this; it's only 3 manuals, but we built it.
And where was that located at that time?
Furman Street.
Furman Street.
But then I moved it out here when we moved out.
Uh-huh. So this organ contains parts from your original hobby organ.
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Now, this organ is, this organ has evolved. It has grown over a period of many years.
Oh yes, in fact, I have a few things more I wanted to do on it before my legs started giving me a problem because most of the mechanism is in the cellar.
Right.
The relay boards and everything are all down there.
Uh-huh. And among the sources of parts that have gone into the construction of this organ are the console, which I think we discussed, which came from a church in Albany.
Just the console came from the church in Albany.
But the pipes are coming from all over, right? There's no one particular.
Some came from a church on Albany Street. Some came from a church on Brandywine Avenue, and, some of the places. The xylophone that I had down there came from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that one must have been from a theater organ?
Yeah, from a theater organ in Texas.
Uh-huh. And you have a couple of small pieces that came from the Colony Theater in Schenectady?
Just the orchestra bells, and I think the sleigh bells, the mechanism is back there. I think that came from there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that noise thing I had, the Chinese block.
Right, the Chinese block.
The rest of it, I think, went to somebody outside the city, where, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we can talk about it. Was Bob Weber. Bob Weber was the guy that had acquired the Colony organ.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was Bob Weber, and it was combined with Dick Weber's organ from out in the western part of the state. But
Bob Weber eventually moved to Burlington, Vermont, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And both are deceased now.
And Dick had his Weber, his brother, had a Wurlitzer about the same size as Goldie in his house.
Yeah.
And eventually moved to a restaurant, and he had it for a restaurant, must have been 10 or 15 years in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Schenectady was very fortunate that we had people like you Warren Ford, Dick Weber, Bob Weber, and a couple of others that were really part of the early days of trying to save some of these pipe organs that were rapidly disappearing from
yes,
theaters all over the country.
There was an actor, Al Jolson, was a famous film, and that was one of them that finished it. That was one of the first talkies that was made.
Right.
And that finished the pipe organs in theaters because you didn't need them anymore. I mean, some theaters had organs, some theaters had pianos.
And we've already recorded many years ago an interview with Ray Norton.
Yeah.
And Ray Norton, of course, was one of the original organists at Proctors, and he was also the savior of the 10-rank Wurlitzer that was in the Plaza Theater in Schenectady.
That was,
And,
that was eventually that was supposed to be reassembled as an example of New York State
Right.
workmanship.
Yeah.
I'm told it's not there anymore.
No, it's not. That.
Do you know where it is?
Yes, I do. The organ was stored in the museum warehouse in Rotterdam for quite a number of years, and they never really could get a plan or the money together to get it installed. And then with 9/11 happening, that there was a lot of artifacts from 9/11 attack that needed to be stored somewhere. And unfortunately, the organ became a target because it was taking up so much space in the warehouse, and they eventually decided that it had to go. So it was put up for auction, and it was purchased by a theater preservation group from the western part of New York, out in Gowanda, New York, that are working to restore the Hollywood Theater in Gowanda, and the plan is to install the organ there. But getting back to Schenectady, though, this organ then is mostly made up of pipes from churches around the area and a few artifacts from
This organ.
Yes, this organ.
They're primarily the one that's not is the tibia, those wooden pipes over there, but most of them are church organ pipes. You know.
Now,
You put a big tremolo on it, though. Sounds very theatrical.
yes. So the formation of ACT was 1979 or so. The group formed to acquire Proctors. What year did you join the board of Proctors? Do you remember?
Oh, about 1984, I'd say, yeah.
Well, it must have been before that, because the organ purchase was in '83, I think.
Well, maybe 83.
Yeah, and
83, 84, in that area.
and that was, of course, thanks to a substantial donation from the Goldie family that was used to make that acquisition. The organ at Proctors came from the Paramount Theater in Aurora, Illinois.
That's right. That's right.
And spent, I don't know, 20 or 30 years at least.
Well, that's not where it was.
Yeah,
That's where it was originally installed.
Yeah, but about 20 years, I think it was at Claude Newman's in
But then
Minnesota.
it was moved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
The private residence.
but when we acquired it, it had been restored somewhat and put back in very playable condition, so that it didn't take very long between the time it was acquired and when we had it playing in Proctors.
Oh, well.
About a year.
Yeah, hell, a little less than that.
Yeah, and that's pretty good.
Oh.
That is pretty
Because
remarkable.
none of the people there were organ builders.
Yeah. So that was really something to be proud of, to have been part of that effort back then, because it was a lot of work, and it required a lot of skill and knowledge to achieve that. Most of the time, these projects will spread over 2 to 5 years to get something like that
Well,
done.
the big thing is, another thing about the organ at Proctors, the action was, when the organ was built, was a big relay board, something like we have down here, you know, with switches all over and things. It occupied a couple of walls and space. guess it was he, got modern, and everything is chips now. And all that big space taken up by the relays is a box about like that. The whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's all. In fact, I have a chip here that works the tremolo on the organ.
There's nothing wrong with technology. That
No,
when these organs were put together, they used the latest technology available.
Oh, sure.
And anybody building pipe organs today is using the latest technology
Oh, sure.
available.
They have to stay
And
competitive.
so there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, nothing wrong with it as long as it works.
Right, it's always an improvement, or almost always an improvement. So, and then of course that we had the success of getting Alan Mills to join the organization as the house organist.
Yeah.
And his skill and reputation in the theater organ world helped put Proctors on the map very quickly.
In fact, the discussion about whether to hire him was made right in this room.
What was that?
The discussion whether to hire Alan
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
made
Yeah.
right in this room.
Great.
And he was enthusiastically nominated. And
Yeah,
hired.
he had a very very quick rise to
Oh, yeah. And you know, a few years, a year or so after the organ was installed, the Christmas program was done entirely at Proctors with Alan Mills being the organist.
Sure.
And choirs from various places brought in.
It has to be said that without Alan Mills, you know, the project and the achievement would not have been as successful if Alan Mills hadn't been around to really build the reputation and
Will we have one of
present
those
the organ to the
time-
public.
A most wonderful thing has just happened. John vanLaak, who has proven to be a great technician in music, a great musician, but he also has written some music, and he's written a song called Come Along to Proctors, and he has offered this to the theater as a song they can use to promote the theater. Well, John, that's a very nice gift, and
So,
you've copyrighted this. I see your late wife's name is on it. Was
here's the
she involved?
copyright. Take that and write them and send them a copy of that and say you want to, maybe I'll have to cite it. If so, I'll be very glad to do that.
And just so people can see,
You can keep the picture.
this is a picture of John playing the organ in 98 and 99.
Yeah.
So you were involved, and I can recognize Goldie. Well, the important part is you really been dedicated to Proctors, and you know we'd like to be,
Well,
be thankful to you for all you've done to make.
I was interested in it and wanted to see it succeed. If you can imagine, before this nonprofit group acquired it, they were going to make a parking lot out of Proctors. You can imagine.
That wouldn't be too good, would it? Well, John, thank you
Well,
so
those are
much,
all
and
years that
I'll take this all back to Proctors and with our appreciation.
The only thing I will add is that let's see, we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of the inaugural concert of Goldie, which was in May of 1984 with
I was there.
Dennis James.
In fact, I picked the organist up at the airport.
And so we're going to be attempting to put on a special concert program to commemorate the 30th anniversary later this year.
Wow.
And so we're welcoming you, if you can do it, to please attend, and we'll take the opportunity to acknowledge that your role in the acquisition of Goldie 31 years ago.
This is Karen Johnson, and I am here today with two exceptional people. John vanLaak, who was very instrumental in getting the organ at Proctors, and we want to thank Frank Hackard for being with us today. This is a Proctors Historical Committee effort to preserve the history of Proctors, and we're recording on March 21st, 2014. Thank you all for watching.
Something else.
Well, you've probably spent, I have to do some quick math here, let's see. You probably have spent over 30 years doing organ work in the
Yeah.
community, making
that was-
sure there are organs that
that-
work and,
That was my recreation.
right, that's great. Can you, can we look at this organ and have you explain it to us?
Sure, sure.
Today we're at the home of John vanLaak. This is part of an interview series of the Schenectady Proctors Historical Committee. It is now March 21st, 2014, and we are here with John vanLaak, who has a very rich history with Proctors, and as you can see by the surroundings here, has a great love of music, which he basically has.
You raised it up to 1.
Right.
It shows they have
That's what we learned at the division for the budget, right? If it goes to number 1, it gets money.
That's right. Well, no, we were supposed to be there to make sure it went to the right places. And, I retired as chief budget examiner, but I enjoyed the work over there very much. But after 40 years and so on, I thought, well, maybe I'll try something.
Shared with all of us in Schenectady.
Right. That's the idea.
Well, Proctors was surely fortunate when you raised that organ priority from number 4 to number 1.
Well, that I don't know. We'd have to talk to Mr. Goldie about that, whether that influenced him or not. But it may have, because you know, when something is 4th priority, that's down pretty low on the list.